to book 2.
Awesome. Welcome back to Man of Steel, page by page.
Book 2's probably the easier book to talk, or probably the easiest book to talk about. It's just all the Lois stuff.
Yeah. Introducing all of that. I honestly, I'm having to refresh myself here. I forget what exactly happens, but yeah.
That's the Batman issue. This is where Lois
right. Thanks.
So basically, Lois finds out that, or Superman starts showing up. We see him stop a bunch of crimes, and she's rushing to all the crimes, trying to find him. And she finally, I love, where is it? Where does he break the gun? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was right on it.
Oh.
It's right here.
No, that one.
That's not, oh.
No, the one where it's the panels where he breaks it through the panels.
Oh,
the guy.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's cool.
I thought it was in that conversation. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think it's something else actually.
So
no, it's not even in this book. It's later.
It's when the people show up on Lex ship.
Yeah, that's right.
So Lois decides that if she can't get to an accident fast enough to get Superman,
that's right. She's gonna cause one for herself.
So she drives off a pier.
Mm-hmm.
Now
she has an aqua lung.
She's an
aqua lung
that's hidden under the seat.
Yes.
And Superman doesn't let on that he knows that that's there until later.
But makes a big deal out of how much of a risk it was, even with the aqua lung, where he's like,
which is a little melodramatic.
It was a little melodramatic, yeah. Well, I don't feel like it had to have been drown yourself, especially because what Lois and a lot of other things will do is she'll be like, help, I'm gonna jump off this building, or something. When you're like, how do you even know that you can get to a superhero when you're underwater?
But I like to take action of it. I just wish.
Yeah.
I don't like the.
It's just a super dramatic situation, and that's why.
And I like that she's the Aqualung, like she prepared, saying that the Aqualung might not have been enough. I don't like that. I just
really.
It makes her too reckless.
Yeah.
I like the idea that she's got a sense of danger, but she's not actually putting herself in a dying. You don't
want her to be stupid.
Yeah.
And the movie is kind of danced that tightrope also, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a Lester thing, but the thing with the Eiffel Tower.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about that.
And then we get what's kind of a reverse of the film where she doesn't get the interview. He talks to her a little bit and then leaves. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, I don't have very much to say, and she would have enough to go on. To write. Yeah. There's not really a story here, and then she rushes to the Daily Planet offices the next day, and Perry White reveals somebody's already written a story, and they already have a job, and it's Clark Kent. Clark Kent did the interview with Superman.
What I think is really, and yeah, we should talk about that because I can't decide what I think about that. I don't know if I like it.
I like it in Earth. I like it in Earth 1.
Superman. See, you keep bringing up stuff from that, and it's just been too long since I've read it. I don't remember.
Well, in Earth 1, he actually has the article in the back. It's an interview with Superman.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we're just told he writes an article.
I think it's kind of jerk-facey of him when he's in her apartment. And this is some of the reason that it doesn't bother me so much that Lois is constantly, as you say, ribbing Clark. Because even though she doesn't know that it's Superman and that he's really responsible for that, yeah, he deserves that. When he's in her apartment and he's like, why don't you go dry yourself off and I'll just sit here on this couch and wait for you. She takes her time and gets, or she probably doesn't, she's probably rushing. But like, it's probably a few minutes, like 10 or 15 minutes, and then she comes back out and he's like,
I don't have anything to say to you.
Kind of pretends like he's giving an interview, tells her nothing, and then is like, okay, I'm leaving now.
Yep.
Oh, man. But I mean, I'm not saying super evil or anything.
I think there's a possibility that was supposed to be...
It plays as charming.
Well, but I also think there's a possibility that it was supposed to be like a twist from the movie. You're expecting him to give an interview and then he leaves.
Yeah.
Like it's playing to the audience.
Well, and you know what else I think Byrne might be doing? He's giving her reasons not to be googly-eyed at him.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's also... There's a thing that he talks about.
She's more interesting and more of a real character in this because she doesn't immediately like fall head over heels for him. I mean, she's interested in him and fascinated by him, of course, but it's not just the typical. Oh, she's a woman. She's the love interest. She has to on a dime. I'm in love with Superman. Yeah,
and I don't see that Clark Kent. There's a thing that they bring up when they're first making up the Superman costume that plays a little bit with the Lois thing that I really like, and I wish we would just use more because it's really smart. I think where they say, don't let on that you have a secret identity. People think he's just Superman.
Yeah.
And so like
Lois and Clark plays with that too. I think.
Yeah. So I really like the idea that.
You know what
people
else?
aren't trying to figure out a secret identity because people don't think he has one.
Yeah, and that's part of why the whole eyes and glasses or the whole glasses thing
they're not looking for him.
Kind of work. He makes a better case for it than other things.
Yeah.
Also, like we keep bringing up Lois and Clark a lot because it goes to this.
Yeah.
His Clark and Superman don't act that differently from each other.
Yeah.
It's not the bumbling one.
Yeah,
like I'm noticing that a lot of your opinions about Superman come from this.
Yeah, which is
or at least they sure feel like they do.
Well, which is weird because I don't read that till I don't know around Superman Returns, maybe a little bit after Superman Returns.
Well, I feel like it's been a while since you read it, and I'm not saying you were like super fuzzy on it. You knew things about it.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure that some of the things that you've come to were like, this is the Superman I like. I'm not sure you knew it was from this.
No.
I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's certainly some things where I'm like, oh yeah, that's well, and part of it's probably because Lois and Clark is so inspired by that, and that I watched Lois and Clark every Sunday when I was a kid.
This is making me appreciate that show in hindsight a little bit more because I always liked it growing up.
I told you would do that.
But then you did. But sometimes it's a little bit harder to go back to it and not feel like it's super dated.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of isn't as much to me.
There's a little bit.
Oh no, certainly in the story, not in the take though.
No. No,
this really feels like my Superman, in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of modern things that I also like where I'm just, okay, it's a tie. Like, again, where the S should come from, which Krypton.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I don't really have an opinion. I like both ways with that stuff. But just his characterization and.
Yeah, no, I love his Superman. And his Superman is a Superman that doesn't talk a lot, he talks when he needs to. He's not chatty, but he doesn't not talk.
Yeah. So the thing I'm on the fence about with the article is he does the Peter Parker thing. And it doesn't feel like it's inherently a Superman thing to do. Mm-hmm. He takes advantage of his situation and who he is, not really his powers, interestingly. Mm-hmm. Just he takes advantage of the dual identity thing and what he knows that other people don't to get a job and get ahead. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I feel about that. That feels like it's kind of inherently against the lesson Pa Kent taught him earlier. It feels like Superman would, and this is one of the only things that contradicts this characterization of it, where the rest of the way through it is this way. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Superman would want to make it on his own intellectual and creative steam. I feel like, and that's one of the things I like about again Lois and Clark, where he keeps writing articles. Mm-hmm. And taking them to Perry White until Perry White finally hires him. Yeah. This is a guy who we're told has not had a job before as a reporter, doesn't have experience, gets that job solely because he had an interview with Superman. He had an interview with himself, mm-hmm. and then he uses that to get a job and get ahead, and he doesn't justify it in any way. We don't have any discussion about it, about whether or not the morality of that bothers him. Mm-hmm. I'm calling foul on that a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, well, I guess I'm starting to know how I feel about it. I don't think I like it.
It doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me when Spider-Man does it either.
Maybe it's studying Spider-Man too much, because I feel like that comes very much from that still figuring out the responsibility thing with Spider-Man. And some things are just necessary. Like with Spider-Man, he's really hard up for cash. What is he going to do?
I think the reason it doesn't bother me
Clark could work harder and still get that job, potentially, and he has a place to go.
Well, I think the reason it doesn't bother me, the reason I don't even...
He can fly home every night. He doesn't even have to live in Metropolis.
That's true. Although he says even before he's Superman that he's kind of made Metropolis his base of operations.
No, I get that. I don't know that it justifies the morality of that.
Well, I think the reason that I didn't think of it or didn't bother me is because it's...
It's a thing I've given thought to from before, because I didn't know what came from this.
I don't know if it comes from this. This is the first I know of it. Like I said, I don't really know Superman before this.
But I have seen it, with other things.
At least in this, it didn't bother me this read because it's they don't touch on it.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about it. There's no discussion. There's no...
Part of my problem is swept under the rug. Well, no, but he does. But we do talk about it because Lois is so upset about it.
Lois is upset that he gets the scoop, but there's no setup beforehand where... I don't know, it's almost like he just kind of walks in. He doesn't even really talk about wanting to be a reporter before that.
No, that's true.
It's almost like an afterthought. It's oh, now he's a reporter.
That's the problem with it.
No, you're right. You're right.
It's almost an arbitrary... what kind of job?
Well, Kent's a reporter, so
he's a reporter.
Well, it's not as bad as Lois and Clark, where he says he wants to be a reporter because he wants to be where the news breaks, so he can get there first. And they're always standing around watching news on television.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But I
do like the takes where he is a reporter in Smallville first.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with it. I didn't think about it.
It's just the more I think about it,
yeah, no, that's fair. It's just...
I feel like there's got to be an argument for it, and I can't think of it, and so I feel like I have to cry foul on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is how I feel about it.
But it's an alright issue. It's mostly just Superman and Lois. And really, Superman establishing himself in the city. Because
again, there is a certain amount of deception that that Clark has to have in order to be Superman, and that's all justified. And that's all. The dual identity is just, yes, he's telling a lie. It's maybe a noble lie. It's a thing he has to do.
But to use it to get a job,
he could have gotten the job on his own steam. Maybe.
Or if he couldn't, maybe he shouldn't have.
Yeah. Or it would have been maybe even more justified if he had tried first.
And really, if he says that he wants to be a reporter so that he's there when news breaks so he knows he's always ahead, that justifies it more.
That might have helped too. Especially if they're not standing around watching TV.
Yeah.
So, now we get into one of the most interesting parts of this thing. Oh boy, this is interesting. Because now we get to talk about Batman.
Yeah.
Byrne's take on Batman is really fascinating to me. Because... at the same time as it feels like just kind of that period's Batman, and he talks kind of formally from what we're used to now and stuff. You have to put yourself back in that time period.
One of the big things I get, Dark Knight Returns has definitely come out.
Yeah.
Byrne has read Dark Knight Returns.
So there's this fascinating juxtaposition here, where he's talking like just the, I don't want to say happy-go-lucky Batman, because there is a tone difference in how he speaks versus how Superman speaks, but he's more like the radio show detective or something, but what he does is mortifying. I couldn't even believe it. This Batman goes so much farther than you would think Batman in this period does, and I would argue that Batman often does now. In The Dark Knight, he drops a guy and breaks his leg, and that's a signal that he's starting to go a little too far. In this, he's thrashing an informant for information. And he's got to swing off to go do something, and he's like, at some point, I'm gonna have to break every bone in that guy's body. We find the exact line because it just kills me. Okay, here we go. This is great. The only way one man can clean up this town is if all the lowlifes stay good and scared. Okay. That is a Miller line if I've ever read one. Well, that is Miller Lite.
Well, Breaking Bones, that's a Miller thing.
And that means dishing out a few object lessons once in a while. Too bad for Bull. That's the guy he was thrashing. He hasn't thrashed him yet. He was just threatening him. Too bad for Bull. He's quite athletic in his own way. He's not going to like having to get around on crutches. Holy crap! crap.
Well, I mean, when you think back to Dark Knight Returns, which would have come out the year before this, or maybe 2 years before this, I mean, Miller's all about the I'm going to break your bones in ways that don't heal right.
Yeah, I know that, but that's an out-of-continuity thing that takes place in the future. You don't expect it in continuity
but you
superhero stuff, right?
You can't downplay the impact of that book.
No, I absolutely. I can't believe we get away with it
in a Superman book too.
I can't believe that editorial didn't say no in this context, because when he threatens him. When he says, I'll do a lot worse than that, I'll hurt you, and you'll stay hurt. And I was like, well, Batman's just threatening him. And then he goes, crutches. No, holy crap!
How do you feel about how Byrne draws
That
Batman?
is, for whatever reason, my favorite part in this book. Because I couldn't believe it. And I love that because it's such a juxtaposition for Superman. And I think it's interesting because Superman's kind of naive. He doesn't know that about Batman. Like, he doesn't know that Batman would go that far. He doesn't see him do it. And he has super hearing, but he doesn't say anything about it. So he doesn't show up, or does he say something about it?
No, he doesn't say anything about it. But one of my issues with this...
Batman has a force field.
...is that Batman narrates all of that. None of it's thought.
Yeah, and he's inconsistent with thought balloons. You know how I feel about thought balloons. Like, even at this period, I feel like we could have started to kind of get away from that a little bit. But that's not here. I just don't know why we haven't gotten to narration boxes more instead of the whole thought balloon thing.
How,
I don't like jumping in and out of people's heads.
How do you like Byrne's Batman just drawn?
It's that weird thing where I wish it had the circle.
Oh, okay.
But only because I'm used to that version having the circle. But it's supposed to be in the past.
It's supposed to be the early version.
But then the color scheme is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because it ought to be
it's blue.
Less blue. Maybe but I do like it just as far as how he draws it. Oh yeah, it's great.
My issue with Byrne's Batman.
You don't like it?
I think he's great anytime his head is turned. He doesn't draw a nose. It's always very flat whenever it's a front on. He doesn't draw a nose.
I'm just excited about going back and reading this era again. This is what these characters look like for me. And I haven't gotten to see this in regular continuity stuff in a long time. It's always throwback. It's just, for me, this doesn't age. This doesn't date. 2016, these characters could still look like this.
Oh, absolutely.
And I miss them.
Yeah.
I miss them looking like this.
How do you feel about Batman?
Especially because art has gotten so much better now.
Oh, yeah.
Overall across the board. Wouldn't you like to see some of our great A talent drawing these versions?
Oh, yeah.
And not just in cutesy, kitschy throwback stuff?
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's my soapbox, you guys.
I've wanted blue Batman with the circle for years.
Yeah. This idea of trying to get super realistic on it when every other story arc is about, like, alternate universes coalescing? Come on.
Yeah. How do you feel about the Batman Superman deterrent?
I don't know. I'm not sure about it. What's your take on it?
It works for me because
you mean the idea that he would hurt himself? He would like.
Well, but he doesn't lead with that. He says.
No, I know. But
he says, I have this force field, and if you enter that force field, a bomb will go off and kill someone in the city.
Yeah. What I like about it is. Well, it's a couple things. First of all, Batman doesn't lie.
Yep.
Well, I mean, he will lie to bad people and be deceptive and stuff, but with a thing like this, he doesn't make threats he won't carry out.
Well, but he also says...
And so he really does have a bomb.
He also says, I assumed you could tell if I was telling the truth or not.
Yeah, sure, yeah, that too. So he... Good point. So, like, he couldn't bluff him even if he wanted to. Maybe he would do a...
Or he doesn't know if he could bluff me.
Maybe he would do a Corbomite thing otherwise, but he's not going to do that here. But anyway, so Batman... what was I going to say? The other thing I like about it is that for a split second, because we know Byrne's not going to take it that far, but because of the thing with the crutches...
And maybe that's why that's there.
That's what I'm saying. That's got to be why that's there.
Yeah. No, I really like it, and I really like...
Maybe he wouldn't actually do that to that guy. Maybe he knows there's an audience, and he's just telling us a thing to freak us out.
Well, he's saying it out loud. Maybe he's hoping that guy hears him while he's swinging around.
Yeah.
It's like he got away, otherwise he'd be on crutches. I really like a Batman that talks a deadlier game than he actually walks. I like that building into the Batman persona.
I also like the idea that Batman sees himself as innocent. I think that's interesting.
It's a little silly that when Batman's like always running around like, well, I don't kill anybody. My number one rule is I don't kill anybody. I like a Batman that really leans into the mystery of himself, and he wants people to think that maybe he would kill people. Maybe he wants criminals to think.
Well, and I really like stories where when the criminals figure out Batman won't kill, that's a huge liability for him. Mm-hmm. Like now he's not scary.
Yeah.
And obviously, him being scary is really important. So,
you should just run around telling people he's going to put them in crutches.
This, as the first meeting with Batman and Superman, is one of the more interesting takes on that I've seen.
Yeah.
I like it quite a bit. The actual story with the bad guy is kind of lame.
Yeah, with Magpie. Yeah.
It's her introduction. She is a psychopath who wants pretty shiny things.
She likes shiny things.
And she went insane because she got to be a curator of a museum, but
she always loved shiny things.
And she couldn't take them home.
Yeah, they weren't her shiny things. Therefore, she had to steal them, and she's sadistic. What she does to people.
The way she has the standard obligatory. I can't say standard because it's way out there, but the traditional supervillain that kills a henchman for his
happy birthday.
It's. Because of how goofy her backstory is, it kind of...
Especially that Batman's sorry for her.
Yeah, that's
Although
hilarious.
He's not here, he doesn't know this happens.
No, that's true. He doesn't know that happens.
He might think she's just a crazy lady running around stealing stuff.
Isn't this right? Sometimes the problem with interrupting the action and going to the villain, I feel like sometimes writers don't keep track enough of what the hero knows.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I'm not saying it's a huge issue here, but I just want to tag that on. Sometimes I find myself going, I don't know if we need to actually go to the bad guy's lair. I kind of don't know if I want to know any more about the bad guy than my hero does.
Well, especially with Magpie, because she's kind of nothing.
And it's kind of it's often done just to give the villain some screen time and to break things up a little bit so that we don't just keep
or to just build up their menace.
And time passes. Yeah. Yeah.
We cut to them so that we see him doing something scary, which is really what that is.
That's why 89 has the reputation for being Joker the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just
keep doing
Joker
that. Yeah. Oop. Anyway, so yeah, and then
they stop her,
and then they feel sorry for Magpie.
And then they feel bad because it's really society or something. Okay, I hate this. Yeah? This is clearly done with a computer.
Yeah, that was a weird choice.
So she unleashes this.
And suddenly he's in an Atari game for some reason.
Magpie unleashes poison. Superman inhales it all into him. Goes up to space, shoots all out, and what we're told.
I like that he goes, "Oh crap, lung capacity," and then he flies back to Earth real quick.
Yeah. So Superman breathes all out, and what we're told is it crystallizes, but as it's pictured, it's computer.
It's digitized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point. I like that he has one of the most advanced crime labs in his car.
Okay, so he says...
You can have it. It's totally cool. It's yours. You let me borrow it.
Yeah. He says... where is he? As you can see, I have a portable crime lab here in the trunk of my automobile. One of the most advanced such labs in the state. Is he saying that other people have portable crime labs in their cars, and this is one of the most advanced portable crime labs?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
because this can't be.
There's potentially a grammatical error going on here. Yeah,
the only crime lab more advanced than this is the one I have in the Batcave.
Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's that some of the cops have portable.
But I love the idea. Labs. I love the idea that other people have portable crime labs in their car, and Batman's is one of the most advanced ones.
He saw a local commercial for one, and his is better. A local commercial.
He kit bashed it a little bit.
He was like, "That one's $29.95. Mine costs $49.95."
It's actually $1.25 staff. I really like the ending line where he says, "In another reality, I might have called him friend," because
that's
obviously we just ended the reality. Well, and we just ended it.
Yeah,
because this is right after Crisis on Infinite Earths. We just left that.
So good point. So we're acknowledging that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But what's really great about it is...
And this is a new, different universe.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten so far away from it that you can't see that eventually happening with those characters. They don't just hate each other for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody at the beginning of 52 did.
They just have different ideologies, different ways of going about things.
Yeah. And they both have reasons for not liking the other person's methods. And I don't want to get into, you know, right now the difference between Batman and Superman real hard. We've covered this ad nauseum in a lot of other videos, but this handles that really well, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then
it's a good introduction to it. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all of that. It's not like there's... Like, it feels like he's setting up a very complex relationship. And that Batman is a very important part of Superman's background and fundamental to his developing the persona of Superman.
See, he doesn't have a nose.
Yeah, you're right. I never minded that. There's other artists that draw him.
Yeah, it always bugs me.
But what I'm saying is, Batman is important for
the development of
defining Superman.
Yeah, I think that's a really
because you have to contrast them.
Yeah.
If you're gonna use him, and if you're gonna make a big deal of this is in the DC universe. I also like that he doesn't interact with anybody else in the DC universe.
Well, and Superman coming to this realization of Gotham City is a very different place from Metropolis, and it actually maybe needs someone like that. Like, as scary as that is, maybe Gotham City needs Batman.
Yeah, I like that he's reasonable to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
He's not so idealistic that he's not, oh, this place is so far gone, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
I also like that he says, I don't like vigilantes even though people think of me as one. And that's cool. That's a line he kind of has to walk a little bit as well.
Well, and you have to remember that...
He hasn't been deputized yet.
Well, and you have to remember that at this point, he's not fighting people. I mean, he stops some crimes, but he saves people. Like, that's, I think, what he generally thinks, is he's not somebody that comes in and fights criminals. He's someone that saves...
Yeah, he only fights criminals when it's putting somebody in danger. But this is the get a cat out of a tree Superman.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad that we don't do that. We don't need to. We don't need to always have Superman save a cat out of a tree.
He does pop down and lower the volume of some of these stereos. Like, it's a tad loud, isn't it?
That's hilarious.
Walking around with the boom
box.
And then
can we talk about the potential implications of some of the things Superman does and says?
We forgot to talk about the thing with Lois.
Yeah, he says he knows where everyone lives.
Well, he gets Lois out of the car, and he says, you need to change your clothes, I'll take you to your home. She goes, you know where I live? And he says, I know where everyone lives. Now, I wanna think, because that's a really creepy idea.
Yeah.
I want to think that's the Superman character. It's like Santa Claus. It's not that he actually knows where everyone lives.
And I feel like in '86, most people not even thinking about it.
Probably not. But it's a creepy implication now, especially with how much we talk about surveillance.
Yeah.
But maybe this is.
I think the idea is supposed to be we can trust Superman, so he's not going to break that trust. Like he knows where everyone lives, and that should make us feel safer, not scared. But we're ignoring, of course, all the stuff that we like to deal with now. What happens if he's compromised? What happens if he's mind controlled? What happens if he's taken over by an alien entity?
I think it's him playing up the character. I don't think he actually knows where everyone lives. But it is.
Oh, you think so?
That's how I took it.
And there's no indication anywhere else. There's no other evidence that he's like super smart or can memorize everything.
And there's no indication that he knows everyone in the city either.
You would need a.
I think he's playing into the Superman myth like Santa Claus. But
that's interesting.
But what's interesting,
especially when you contrast with Batman.
Well, and what's interesting, contrast now and then. He thinks that that's inspiring or helpful or optimistic to say, I know where everyone lives.
Yeah.
Even if I'm right and that is him playing the character.
Naivety.
Well,
but that could be a really...
Or that's a more naivety of the time, or not as cynical time.
Well, and
you wouldn't say that now to reassure people.
Yeah, and I'm sure Byrne doesn't play with that in his run, but looking at that as just the beginning of the run, it'd be interesting if there was something about that. But anyway...
and then we get to Lex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this in Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
Lois's relationship with Lex.
Yes, it comes straight out of this.
Which I don't think exists before this. Again, I don't know Superman before this. I think this is the first time they do that.
I'm not sure if there's a Lex that's obsessed with Lois or wants to be involved with her.
Or has some kind of prior relationship. Because they at least have gone out once or something like
that. And he's just so super manipulative in this.
Mm-hmm. He's had like 6 wives or something, something like that.
Yeah. She doesn't want to be lucky number 7.
Yeah. So we do have a moment of the Fixer Byrne, where he explains how Superman can shave, which I think is a cool little detail.
Mm-hmm. I like that. We haven't talked very much at all about art in this, except for how visually stunning it is. Mm-hmm. Really cinematic, very very storyboardy. This is one of those books that you could easily just hand to a filmmaker and say, make it straight.
Sure.
Because I mean, there's a lot of panels and entire pages without dialogue. Mm-hmm. The action is very visually driven, and the attention to detail is there. When you're in that scene in the beginning where he's talking to Lois and he's about to shave, you see stubble.
Yeah.
They make sure that there's stubble drawn on his face.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking while I was reading it, is that going to be... There it is, yeah. Is that going to be... is that a plot point? Is there a reason that's there? Is that what?
It's just to show us how he shaves.
And then but the very next page, now he's shaving. Like I was like, I was wondering why the stubble was there.
It's setting up,
and then there was a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Superman shaves by reflecting heat vision onto his face, because obviously a razor wouldn't be able to cut his, especially with the way this Superman is, where it's not that Superman has indestructible skin or indestructible hair or anything like that.
Because he says his skin has to get used to it.
He has like a really thin like barrier around his whole body. That's why when he puts on the suit, it's skin tight, because it is under that barrier. Whereas his cape can get ripped and torn, his suit won't.
Which actually is a decent explanation for why the suit doesn't get torn.
Oh,
I always thought that was kind of like Animorphs nonsense, where it's like, why are you able to morph skin or clothes that's close to because we don't want naked people in a teen book. That's why.
Well, I mean, none of that is as silly as X-Men 1. Where does the phone go? In X-Men 1...
Context is always good.
I thought this was a thing you knew. In X-Men 1...
I just don't right away know what you're talking
about. So this, the senator is having a conversation on the phone,
right.
Tosses the phone to his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Assistant puts it in his coat, then becomes Mystique.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Where does the phone go?
Oh, boy. That's great.
Anyways...
I'll tell you about a Star Trek one of those a little bit. Go ahead.
So anyways, this issue introduces Lex Luthor, who we build up, not the previous issue, but the one before that, with Lois. Someone comes up to Lois and is like, hey, Mr. L wants to see you. He's going away for a year. He's got some kind of business trip. And she just kind of shirks it off. Here she shows up to Clark's apartment in like a really fancy gown. That Lex... She is under the impression he gave it to her for tonight.
Yeah,
to come temporary. To this big extravagant
He's rented it.
Yeah.
Or is letting her borrow it. Mm-hmm. But it's actually a gift, and she doesn't want to take a gift from because she doesn't want to be beholden to him.
The moment that she finds out, she takes off the dress and takes Clark's suit jacket.
That is a panel that I found really awkward. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Maybe you thought of this too. She says, Clark turned around, but Lex doesn't. And it's one panel, and that's deliberate.
No.
What?
Because she stands behind Clark and says, "Make yourself as wide as you know how."
Okay,
he's blocking her.
That works in this panel. That's because she's walking away here. Okay, now I
understand. No.
Now
she uses him as a curtain.
That's cool.
And this is also,
and I like the symbolism of that a lot when you think about the fact that he's Superman and she doesn't know that.
Yep.
And
well, and I also like that we're commenting on how muscular he is.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a fun little bit where she like lifts his weights, and she's like, "These are barely heavier than mine." He's like, "I'm so strong. I don't know what's a heavy weight."
Occur to me, yeah.
Now I don't know.
It feels like a thing you could look up.
I don't know what it was like in the 80s. They've got numbers on them.
Does he not have any sense of relative?
Can he not count?
At the very least, could he not call his parents and be like, "What's like a heavyweight?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Like ladies like Lois Lane aren't generally lifting 200-pound like hand weights. Oh, okay.
we have a setup. I assume it's a setup. I don't remember in any of the issues of Byrne's run I've read. I really want to read Byrne's run. I've just not read all of it. I've only read the beginning of it. We set up what I assume it's a setup where we talk about how... I'm just going to keep saying the word setup. Mm-hmm. Perry White hates Lex Luthor so much that even though this event is the biggest event of the year...
He won't show up.
He won't go there personally. He'll report on it, but he will not go there personally because he doesn't want to be anywhere near Lex Luthor. I think that's really interesting. And I'm willing to bet...
that because he's not always, the most moral guy. He'll cut corners and things in a lot of, different versions and stuff. And there's talk about how, he's so crotchety. If he hates Lex that much, there's something to it.
Well, it seems like there's kind of a... that morality, the freedom of the press kind of a thing with Perry White. That's usually there.
And he knows that Lex sees everybody as things that he owns, and
I'm willing to bet that at some point there's a backstory provided where Lex tries to buy him off.
I feel like I read something about that. I think they do have a history that he developed.
Yeah, as I'm saying this, I feel like I remember something, but I can't off the top of my head.
And that's cool.
But I think that's cool. I like the idea of... I like anytime Perry White is a little bit more active.
Yeah.
Not that he's really in this story, but he's not just the guy... He's not just the guy in the office that yells at Lois and Clark.
He's not a cardboard cutout.
So some terrorists? I don't remember what we call them. We would call them terrorists now. I don't remember if that's what we call them. They're revolutionaries or something. Lex has done something in some other country. He's building something, or he's holdings there that people aren't liking, and they've been attacking LexCorp things. And they come and they attack Lex's boat, and Superman stops them. Clark gets thrown off the side.
Yeah, and they think he's dead.
Lois
thinks he's dead, and I really like how that's played, because even though we know what's going on, he does a really good job of getting us into her head, and that's important because of the way she's treated him in previous places in the book. She's a more layered character than that. She doesn't want him dead.
Yeah.
And she cares about him to some degree.
Yeah, at least as a human being.
Yeah,
she doesn't want him dead. She took him to the event.
Yeah.
And I don't think it says that they were assigned to go together.
They're starting to gradually build some kind of a mutual appreciation.
Yeah, and she says something like, "Don't think I've forgotten about how you scooped me," but it's not.
Well, not just mutual appreciation. He's falling in love with her, of course.
Yeah,
but she doesn't know that.
Which is interesting because this takes place over 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's a gradual thing, and it's way more believable than how we do romance in anything, where it's just
really interesting.
We fell in love immediately.
Yeah, and because you don't see a lot of it, we don't have this forced drama because he's not padding things out. He's giving you vignettes over time. He's doing the opposite of padding things out.
Yeah.
He's giving you really just the important things that happen. It's a really good study in how to tell this kind of a story, and how to tell a story over a long period of time, I think.
And what I think works...
There aren't extraneous scenes, there aren't extraneous episodes, for the most part.
What I think makes this work so well as an origin for Superman...
Actually, I don't think any of it's extraneous, it's just Magpie's not a great villain, but you needed something for them to fight.
Yeah, that's not really the point of that issue.
Right, yeah.
I think what makes this so good, and makes it maybe the best Superman origin, is because it takes
We'll see what we think when we read the other ones we haven't read yet.
Yeah, sure. But I think because this takes place over such a large period of time, this will have this over... over the other origins, in that I feel like anytime we do Superman's origin, it's 2 days, right? Everything happens over the period of 2 days.
Yeah.
He shows up in Metropolis, maybe a week,
Yeah, and something that I really had while I was reading this is I had to keep reminding myself I was in Origin. Mm-hmm. Because it just very quickly becomes Superman stories.
Mm-hmm. But we're still setting things up.
Absolutely. It's just that I'm engaged in the stories that are being told, and so that's not the reason I care.
Yeah.
That's important. It is a lot of setup. Mm-hmm. But it's not only that he's telling some real story too.
Yeah. You, as a kid, you probably could have picked up any of these issues and
you're just reading. Okay, it's early Superman. You're reading Superman.
Except that Lois Lane issue, I feel like as a kid I would have thought that issue was boring.
Yeah, sure.
But the first issue you got the origin. Third issue you got Batman. The fourth issue is Lex Luthor.
So at the end of this chapter, Lex does something stupid for no good reason. He just starts doing the typical villain explaining the plot thing.
He reveals,
and there's no good reason he needs to do that I can see.
The only thing I can guess is that it's a confidence thing. He thinks that what he's about to say is going to go over fine. And I wonder...
It's done with the mayor there.
Well, I wonder...
And the thing is, if he's that overconfident... Here's the thing. This is a guy that doesn't make these kind of mistakes. That's why he owns the city. Mm. I don't buy that. This is the first time he's ever gone to jail for any amount of time. I'm pretty sure. Like that's kind of the way they play it.
So yeah.
I don't know that for sure, but
it's only 2 hours.
And and he makes such a big like he's pissed, and he's like, "This will never happen to me again. I will never go to jail again." I'm like, "Well, here's an idea. One way to make sure you don't go to jail
is
again
not
stand around saying what your whole plot was and that you were behind it all along."
Well, I think he.
What if there's a reporter recording with a recording device?
I think the way that he looks at it, and maybe this is indicative of how he views people, that he didn't actually do anything wrong. He didn't hire the revolutionaries to come attack his boat.
That's true.
He just suspected that they would show up and held his guards back to see what Superman.
Well, and you're right. He doesn't make a big deal out of nobody got hurt. Mm-hmm. This was a thing I did just to see. But I guess my point is, why risk it? Why not just say? Why not just play dumb and be like, "Oh, these revolutionaries. I don't know if that good thing Superman came."
Well, because the question.
I don't know why he needs anybody to know that. And
because the question was, where were your guards? You have all the security here. Where were they?
But doesn't he? Maybe I'm remembering this wrong. But doesn't he bring up the guards? I'm trying to remember what exactly the situation and why he even has to make it. But like the conversation doesn't start with the guards. It seems like he's already kind of bragging about it.
He is, because Superman shows up and turns down his money and everything, and he says, "Not that you really needed here."
Another thing he shouldn't have done in front of people.
Yeah.
That seemed like a really bad idea.
Yeah. Not that you really needed here, of course. As you can see, my security team was quite capable of handling the situation.
Yeah, don't say that.
And then Lois brings up, like,
that's why I just...
where was your security team, Lex?
No, Lex, what you say is, good thing Superman showed up, and then maybe, like, behind everybody's back, hey, Superman, you should be on my retainer. Mm-hmm. And like that's so thin and obvious manipulation on his part. Like Superman's not gonna go for that. You're weird to think that he would, and not just because I know how altruistic Superman is, just because like why would somebody with that much power want to be again beholden to anyone?
Well, and I think it's strange. He just puts a check in Superman's face.
Yeah.
And Superman's like, what is this?
And I do kind of like...
He's like, oh, well, I've got you on retainer now. I have everyone on retainer. It's like, okay, lead with that. Don't just wave this thing in my face.
I do kind of... Well, and he goes, that was a check for $25,000. Like, I do kind of like the idea that Lex...
A check for $25,000?
That because he was on a game show. He had this big check. He was...
Well, no, just because before everything we did that was this size, a check for $25,000.
That wasn't on this video.
That's fine.
That was somewhere else.
Hey, if you want to know what this is...
Go to Patreon. Yeah, if you're that curious. $2 a month. You'll get $2 one time. We'll let you understand what this was. Anyway, Yes, that was my commercial. No, Ed McMahon shows up. He's like, here's your check. So...
Here's your check.
Here's your check. But, what the heck were we... I like the idea that Lex, thinks that everybody wants money and power the way he does, and he's just the best at it. Like, this has always been a thing with this version of Lex Luthor, where, and he's creating this, and then after that, we have this where, the reason Lex is able to control everyone is because he has this really, cynical way of looking at people, because that's the way he is, and he thinks that he understands people, and they don't have his ability or his tenacity or his ambition. And so that's why he's able to... So he's assuming Superman is that way because that's the way he looks at people. So maybe that part of it's kind of okay. All I'm saying is, it seems like if he owns the whole city, he's gotta be smarter than this.
Well, I know that Byrne plays with his ego a lot.
Yeah.
Because I believe it's the first issue, it might be the second or third issue, really early into his run. Lex is a computer figure out that Clark Kent is Superman, and he doesn't believe it. Because someone with that much power wouldn't do something that humble.
And that's the thing he always hates about Superman, and this is the Lex Luthor I love the most. And this is why I love Lex Luthor Man of Steel so much, because this is the big idea it plays with.
This Man of Steel.
Not
the Man of Steel didn't have Lex Luthor.
No, Lex Luthor Man of Steel.
Lex Luthor Man of Steel.
That book.
Not this Man of Steel, nor the film Man of Steel.
Yeah, this is the reason I love the book Lex Luthor Man,
Which I've not read.
The Azrael thing.
Yeah.
The reason I love that so much is because, besides the art, it's glorious. It's about that idea of Lex can't handle what he feels like is the contradiction of a man that powerful has to use that power for his own gain, because that's what he does. And he hates Superman because Superman is the ideal, and he wants his way of looking at that to be the ideal, and he hates that people gravitate toward that. And this kind of has that.
Yeah.
Or it's getting us there. It's starting then.
I don't know if it's on the steps of City Hall. It's on the steps of somewhere. It's like right after he gets out of prison.
Right.
He says in front of God and everyone. He says, "Remember, Superman, you're a dead man."
You wouldn't say that. And that's the thing, is that we're kind of walking this line of absurd comic book thing.
No one will be able to prove it. I'll not be arrested, Superman. Not ever again.
Yeah, and again, it's in front of everybody. We're walking this line of heightened comic book thing and more realistic take on Superman. He's within the context of this comic book world. Things are more realistic than that. And that's why that kind of bugs me. So I like this take on Lex a lot. I just think he's too over the top and he's not smart enough.
And I wonder if some of it's just that Byrne hasn't fully figured it out yet, how to write it, and maybe it gets better within his run.
And you could make the argument, but I think this is a cop-out, that he's owned Metropolis for so long that he's turned people stupid. But I don't think that's
he's gotten arrogant and lazy.
Yeah, but he can't be that arrogant and lazy. And the thing is, you kind of want Superman to be the thing that turns him arrogant and lazy. And maybe the argument could be made that he's just now getting like this with Superman showing up, but he needs to have this like massive frustration about it, or he seems like he's just the way he always is. I'm just not quite sure I buy some of the things that he does. That he really thinks he can get away with, especially because he doesn't get away with some of those things.
Yeah.
It's a question. It's a question I have.